Welcome to our latest Wandering Walks of Wonder tour. Today we're taking a history walking tour through Excelsior Springs, Missouri. Excelsior Springs got its start in the early 1880s when settlers discovered natural mineral springs in the area. At the time, mineral waters were believed to have powerful healing qualities, and people began flocking to this little valley to take in the waters. The town grew quickly as word spread, and by 1881 it had its very first post office. Originally, the settlement was called Vigenti, or Latin for 20, because locals thought there were 20 springs nearby. But the name Excelsior Springs soon became more popular, and in 1882, that name was officially adopted for the town. By the late 19th and early 20th centuries, Excelsior Springs had transformed into a thriving health resort town, complete with bathhouses, boarding houses, and luxury hotels like the Elms Hotel that we're seeing here now. Visitors came from across the country for the mineral baths, spa treatments, and fresh country air. The city continued to prosper well into the mid-1900s, though interest in mineral water therapy eventually declined. Even so, Excelsior Springs, as we'll see as we go along in this tour, holds on to its charm with historic buildings, a lively downtown area, and a strong sense of identity tied to its spa town roots. Our tour begins here in front of the historic Elms Hotel in Excelsior Springs, which is quite the story, one full of grand openings, devastating fires, and impressive comebacks. The very first Elms opened its doors in 1888. It was a huge wooden structure with more than 200 rooms and built to welcome travelers drawn to the town's famous mineral waters. Unfortunately, that version of the hotel only lasted 10 years before it burned in 1898. A second Elms rose in its place in 1909, but it too was destroyed by a fire just the very next year. The third and current Elms Hotel that we see today opened in 1912. It's built from stone, steel, and concrete to make sure it truly is fireproof. It's designed in a Tudor revival style, and it has the charm of an old-world castle combined with the modern comforts of the time. Over the years, the hotel has welcomed celebrities, politicians, and everyday folks looking for just a little rest and rejuvenation. During Prohibition, stories of secret gambling and speakeasy activities swirled around the property, and in 1948, Harry S. Truman chose the Elms as his hideaway on election night before learning he had won the presidency. Ahead of us is the former post office building here in Excelsior Springs. But the story of Excelsior Springs Post Office dates back to 1881 when the very first post office opened in a small one-story building on Broadway Street. The very first postmaster was J.B. Holton, better known as Uncle Brack. In those early days, mail was delivered by horse and buggy before trains and automobiles eventually took over. Over time, the post office expanded its services with parcel delivery and money orders, helping residents to stay connected with the outside world. The new post office building that we see here today opened in 1914, and it served the community for many decades before a newer facility was built in 1965. The building today is now a church for the Church of Christ. Excelsior Springs is full of historic buildings, but few carried the same reputation for healing as the McCleary Sanatorium that was founded by Dr. Aratus S. McCleary. Dr. McCleary, originally from Montgomery County, Missouri, came to Kansas City in 1893 to practice medicine, focusing on gastrointestinal diseases. In 1921, he opened the Parkview Sanatorium on Paseo Boulevard in Kansas City, which quickly gained fame as the largest institution in the world devoted exclusively to treating gastrointestinal diseases. He boasted curing thousands of patients. After discovering the mineral waters in Excelsior Springs, McCleary relocated here in 1925. He first leased the Plaza Hotel and expanded the property with the garage he converted into a clinic. The new Excelsior Springs clinic offered hydrotherapy patient rooms for up to about 100 guests and specialties in gastrointestinal disorders. By 1930, the clinic had claimed more than 15,000 cured patients. The sanitarium thrived for many decades, eventually merging with Thornton Minor Hospital in 1957. It closed its doors in 1972 after treating over 300,000 patients. The Payne jailhouse, which is now part of a bed and breakfast here in Excelsior Springs, is one of those places where history and hospitality seem to come together in a pretty unique way. The original building itself dates back to the early 1900s. It started as a small brick home, and by 1912 it had been rebuilt into a larger two-story structure. Part of the early building in the back, though, included the town's very first jail room, which gave the property its lasting nickname. In 1940, longtime Excelsior Springs Police Chief Bill Payne bought the home. He added a detached garage a few years later, which eventually became part of a guest house. For decades, the Payne family lived there, and the house became well known in the community, not just for its connection to law enforcement, but also for its quirky jailhouse past. The former Woods Memorial Christian Church has its roots going all the way back to 1884. That's when a small group of people got together at John C. Prather's home to start what was then called the First Church of Christ. In the early days, they didn't have their own building, so they met in the old city hall and sometimes held services in other local churches. By 1886, the congregation had grown enough to build their first church, which was a simple frame building, which at that time was on the edge of town. But a few decades later, Dr. William Stone Woods, a respected local banker and physician, left a generous gift of $35,000 for a new church. Thanks to him and the leadership of Reverend John Paul Jesse, a beautiful brick church that we see today was dedicated in 1922. And that's how it became to be called Woods Memorial Christian Church, a nod to Dr. Woods' generosity. Unfortunately, the congregation moved on and the building had to be closed, but the church did donate more than $300,000 to local organizations. In 1929, Excelsior Springs welcomed its very first chain department store, Montgomery Ward. The store opened on October 4th, 1930, and offered 32 departments, though many were modest in size. Its location was strategic, sitting right here in the heart of the rapidly growing downtown area of Excelsior Springs, which was becoming very popular at the time due to the town's mineral waters. After a 15-year run, Montgomery Ward closed its doors in 1945. The building briefly housed a J.C. Penney department store starting in 1947 before transitioning to a wicker furniture store which successfully operated for many years. Today, the building operates as the Montgomery Event Venue, which is a great site for weddings and events. In 1933, the Hope Gowing Funeral Home opened. Built from stone with a charming tile roof and a welcoming entrance, it was a great example of the picturesque style popular at the time and quickly became an important part of the community. For decades, Hope Funeral Home served local families, and its records span from 1903 all the way to 1987. After sitting empty for a while, the building got a fresh start in 2022 when it opened as a lively wine bar and event venue space called Casa di Vite, which means House of Life in Italian. Many people may not know it, but the building that now houses the slightly off Broadway theater actually started out as a Methodist church back in 1903. It's a beautiful Gothic revival style building complete with large octagonal cupolas, decorative buttresses, and very beautiful carved floral details along the roof line. In 1948, the church added a new wing to the west side of the building and grew just a little bit more. But Eventually, the building's role as a church came to an end, and in 2010, a group of dedicated volunteers saw the potential in this historic space. They transformed it into the slightly off Broadway theater, turning pews into seats and the stage into a home for musical comedies and plays. We're now heading down historic Broadway Street, and the first building that we see here at 103 Broadway was originally home to what was called the Boston Store, which was a department store that opened in the early 20th century. It was part of a broader trend during that era where national retailers established branches in growing towns like Excelsior Springs. By the late 1930s, the Boston store had evolved into the Worthmore Variety Store. This transformation reflected the changing retail landscape, with variety stores offering a wide range of goods at affordable prices, catering to the everyday needs of the community, much like Walmart did in its very beginnings. This building that we see here is known as Flanders Hall and was built between 1900 and 1905 and originally operated as Flanders Dry Goods. This establishment was part of the early commercial development in Excelsior Springs, catering to the growing community needs at the time. By 1910, the business had evolved into the Flanders department store, offering a wider range of goods to the public. The store became a staple in downtown Excelsior Springs, known for its variety and service. The building has been today transformed into an event space. This building that we see in front of us, that's today known as the Mook building for Amanda Mook, who actually transformed the building and renovated it, was once home to a drugstore called Hughes Drugstore, as well as the Excelsior Springs Drugstore. And there were several doctor's offices, and at one time a Firestone tires place was located here. As we've mentioned a couple times, Excelsior Springs was once famous for its mineral waters, drawing visitors from all over who were looking for healing and wellness. Back in the early 1900s, this building that we see here was set up as a health clinic and hospital to provide treatments for both visitors and locals looking to benefit from the town's waters. As time went on, this building that was known as the Excelsior Institute evolved into what we now know as Excelsior Springs Hospital. The facility grew and modernized over the years, and in 1976, a new hospital was built just west of town on US Highway 69. You may not know it, but the Hall of Waters here in Excelsior Springs was once the crown jewel of health and wellness in the Midwest. This building that we see in front of us was built between 1936 and 1938 during the Great Depression. This grand Art Deco building was a public works administration project aimed at revitalizing the town and showcasing its unique mineral waters. The hall was designed to be a state-of-the-art health resort featuring the world's longest mineral water bar, a swimming pool, and separate hydrotherapy departments for both men and women. Visitors could sample various mineral waters, each believed to have different healing properties. Over the years, the popularity of mineral waters waned, and by the late 1950s, the hall's prominence as a health resort declined. Despite this, the building remained a significant part of the community's identity, and in 1983 it was added to the National Register of Historic Places. Today, the Hall of Water serves as the City Hall for Excelsior Springs, as well as houses a visitor center and a small museum. While the mineral water bar is no longer in operation, the building stands as a testament to the town's rich history and its once thriving spa culture. It's a beautiful building to explore and has a very unique blend of architecture, history, and the allure of mineral waters.
Okay.
Inside the Hall of Waters is this small museum which showcases some of the original bathing equipment, where we are now touring what was once the women's bath departments, and contains many of the vintage equipment and pieces of equipment used during the spa's historical period. There's also photos and maps of where each of the springs are, as well as some more detailed information about each of the types of mineral waters that were once found here in Excelsior Springs. I hope you've enjoyed this Wandering Walks of Wonder tour here throughout historic Excelsior Springs, Missouri. Make sure to hit that like and subscribe button, and we will see you on our next Wandering Walks of Wonder adventure. Take care now. Bye-bye.